Hey guys, Casey Scanlon here. Going to give you a quick fishing report for Lake of the Ozarks. It's May 19th and the water level is at full pool. First time all year that it's been up at full pool. We've had some rains recently. Water is 71 to 75 degrees I saw in the afternoon on my Garmin units. So water temperature is getting up there. Before I left for Lake Guntersville, the water temp was anywhere from 58 to 60 degrees. Fish were just moving up to spawn. So it's been about 10 days since then. Been fishing the last 4 days and the fishing has been really, really good. We've had a couple waves of fish move up and spawn, like I said, and now we have, I think most of the fish in the lake are up on the bank and they're trying to get it done. So a lot of fish up there in 0 to 4 feet of water, and we've been catching them on a variety of tactics. So this is one of my favorite times of year to fish. You've got a lot going on. We've got fish that are post-spawn that have spawned several weeks ago. We got fish that are in the middle of spawning, so they're up there making beds, protecting the nest. We've got fish that are guarding fry, so those eggs have hatched, and now those males are kind of sticking around up shallow, hanging out around boat docks, and they're guarding those pods of fry. So those eggs that have hatched, they're protecting them for the next few weeks here, and those fish can be real susceptible to a top water or really anything you throw in there on them. You just got to be able to see the fry and identify it. And so they look like little black dots usually, and that can be a really fun bite. We've got fish moving offshore. They're going to continue to move out deeper, as the weather gets hotter and as the weeks go on. So really fun time to be out on the water. You can do a little bit of everything and have some success. It's a great time to get out there if you're learning some new techniques or want to experiment with some techniques, because there's a lot of bites to be had. So let's go over a few of the ways that I've been catching them this week. The number one bait for us has been the Tackle HD Sticks worm. This isn't the exact color I've been throwing, but this is productive. Here in the springtime of the year, you can really get bright with your colors, get some of those fish to react, because like I said, they're guarding the nest, they're guarding these fry, and they can become ultra aggressive. And these color baits actually help a lot when you're sight fishing. So we've got some clear water on the lower end. We've had really, really clear water all spring, and now that we've had some rains and the lakes come up, the water's starting to dirty up, which kind of opens up a variety of tactics, makes a lot of these fish a little more susceptible to being caught as well. You can sneak up on them a little bit better. They can't see you. You can't see them. So, when you get around one, they tend to bite. This is just a 5-inch stick worm. The green pumpkin color has been pretty much the best. That's just a go-to color for me. We're rigging that either weightless on a wacky hook. So this is the Hayabusa special wacky wire guard. So it's got a little wire keeper on there, which is great around the cables, the brush, the dock pylons. Helps keep you out of that cover, keeps you from getting hung up, but it's also a really, really light wire on there, so it doesn't interfere with getting the hook in the fish. I used this all last week at Lake Guntersville, landed a bunch of fish in some really hard situations. It was a lot of grass, a lot of lily pads. Those fish were hard to get in the boat, and this hook will get the job done. We've been throwing that on a spinning rod, 6-gill dreadnought reel with a 7'2" siren rod from 6-gill medium action. Skipping that behind docks, skipping it up under overhanging limbs. Any fish that I see cruising on any clear water areas, where I can actually visibly see the fish, I'm gonna throw it out in front of them, whether they're on a bed or just cruising down the bank, and this gets a lot of bites. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of weight to it, just a small nail weight, just insert it in the end there, and just rig that hook right through the middle. So that's a great tactic. But most of the fish been coming on shaky head, so we're just taking that sticks worm, threading it up on that shaky head, using a screw lock, and this just kind of helps keep some bottom contact, keep that weight close to the worm, and we're just dragging this down gravelly banks, in the backs of pockets, around wood cover, docks, any kind cover in the water, and there's a lot of it now. This lake's come up, and there's a lot of debris, wood cover, stuff that's normally not in the water in the springtime is all in play. So anything in the water, throw this next to it, kind of rig it up Texas style like that, or weedless I should say. I bring that hook through the bait and then rig it in the top there. Just cover that hook point up, make sure you're staying out of those snags. And that's a 1/8 ounce right here, but we've been using 1/8 ounce to a 1/4 ounce weight depending on how deep we're fishing. And we're fishing that, like I said, pockets, secondary points, just kind of throwing this around. It's just like a jig. You can throw it around in a lot of places and get a lot of bites. And as I mentioned, a jig, I'm gonna pick up my Trophy Bass Company Pro Jig like always. We're skipping that behind cables, fishing around shallow brush piles, laydowns, any kind of visible cover. You know, the shad are starting to spawn, so we're using a lot of natural colors. It's just green pumpkin, black and blue, a lot of stain in the water in a lot of areas, so black and blue is really productive. Using a small craw trailer on there or a chunk. And then, you know, I actually saw some fish, some shad trying to spawn today. So we usually don't get huge shad spawns where those fish, you know, totally key in on them for whatever reason. We've got a great lake, a lot of bait fish in here, but the shad spawn isn't real big here like it is down south. But I did see some big gizzards starting to spawn, so a white Pro Jig swimming around some of these docks might be really good. You know, the water's up, so you can swim it around some of these overhanging trees and debris that's in the water. A lot of these shad will actually spawn on some of that sawdust and debris that comes in these pockets. So another great bait for that. Man, always Trophy Bass Company spinnerbait here. This is our Ozark Flash, 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce. White chartreuse, keep it simple, keep it looking like a shad, and that's a great way to tell if a shad spawn's going on. Those shad will actually run into that lure, they'll bump into it, and actually caught a few this morning on the spinnerbait. We've had some rainy conditions today. We're gonna go back out for another guide trip here this afternoon, but they were biting this morning. Caught them on the shaky head, caught a couple on this. And we caught a couple on some topwater. That topwater bite's gonna be really fun. This lake is known for topwater, whether you're throwing the worldwide buzzer here. Black's always a favorite of mine. White in the springtime is always a go-to because again, those shad are starting to spawn. They like a brighter bait, it seems like. Water's kind of colored, so that bait will work really good. Love that buzz bait this time of year. That one makes a ton of racket. Of course, the blade hits the head, and it also squeaks really good. It's got kind of a line through, I guess line through. The wire goes through the blade, which creates more friction, more squeaking, more noise, and it annoys those bass. It calls them in from a longer ways away, and they eat that lure. So really fun way to catch them. A lot of sawdust, a lot of debris in the water from that rain last night. So I tied on a frog to my 6-gill rod and reel here and put on some 50-pound braid and was throwing that around this morning just to see if I could get a bite. And I actually got a couple big bites. You know, I imagine those fish were either spawning or garden fry, but super fun way to catch them. They came up and slurped the frog this morning, but I know they'll eat a pop-R, they'll eat a spook, they'll definitely eat that buzzbait, and found out this morning they'll eat a frog a little bit too. So that was really fun. Let's see, you know, Carolina rigs and the jigs will work out deeper. You know, the deeper you go, the heavier weights you can use, but the fish tend to be on those flatter banks right now. You know, there's some fish on bluff ends that are moving up and channel banks that are moving up to spawn still, and some fish that are moving out to that kind of stuff after the spawn. So those deeper banks will work. I haven't put in a ton of time and effort into them because it seems like the shallower, flatter stuff has been a little more productive for me. We have popped out to some points on the secondaries, you know, main lake points, just because they're pulling some current and stuff, and those fish should be getting out there. And we've caught a few, but nothing that's been, you know, of real interest to me. We'll go out there, we'll catch a few fish, but you know, nothing that really excites me at the moment, but that bite's gonna be happening any day. I've got just a little mini Carolina rig, 18 inches here on the leader from the weight the hook here. Another Hayabusa 3/0 wide gap hook attached to a minnow fluke from Tackle HD. That's a really good little bait. It's also my favorite chatterbait trailer, but that's a good one just to drag around in that clear water. You know, Texas rigs are working really well. We've been using a lot of creature baits on those. Again, I got the Sticks worm on this one. 20-pound line from Bass Pro Shops is a must right now. I'm not going to be using anything less than 15 on the spinning rods. We've been catching a lot of fish on a spinning rod too. And the spinning rod, you know, I'm using 10-pound braid, 10-pound leader, sometimes a 20-pound braid to a 10-pound leader. But you know, fishing's been really good with that spinning rod, and it's always fun to reel them in. They feel a lot bigger than they are sometimes, but we've been catching a lot of big ones. That light line definitely gets bit, and it's the easiest way to throw that wacky rig. But you know, this lake's got a lot of cover in it, a lot of boat docks, and these fish are mean right now, so I want to use as big a line as I can get away with. So that Bass Pro Shops 15, 17-pound, 20-pound line is going to be what I'm reaching for. You know, here I got a little bubblegum floating worm from Tackle HD. Forget what we're calling this one. It's the Sweet Sticks worm. So another really good worm. It's got a real flat bottom on it, which helps it get some good action in the water. But we've been throwing that in this color, methylate color, doing that Texas rigged or wacky rigged without a weight. Sometimes I'll put a little swivel in front of it, but that's a fun way to get strikes visually. You know, you'll be watching that worm come across the water, and all of a sudden, you know, it disappears. And that's where kind of that bright color helps. It helps not only attract them, but it helps you tell when you get a bite as well. And when they have the worm all the way down their throat. So a lot of times you'll see this thing halfway disappear. You just got to wait a minute for that fish to choke up all the way on the worm. But you name it, you can do it right now. The water is just going to get warmer. The fish are going to start moving out deeper, and for the next couple weeks, I believe they're going to be pulling some current because there's going to be a lot of people down here using the lake, a lot of ACs running, and we're going to get some more rain tonight. We got a lot during the day today and last night. So lake is full, ought to be running some current, which usually helps the bite out this time of year. So the next few weeks should be really, really fun. The crappie bite has been pretty good. There's still some crappie hanging around shallow. I think those mid-depth brush piles are probably your best bet. I'm seeing guys catching them off the bank. I haven't been crappie fishing last week, but the week before, you know, we were catching some fish spawning, but a lot of those better ones were kind of off the bank. And I'm seeing a little bit of both on my Garmin live scope right now. There's some fish up shallow, and there's some fish that are out deeper. There's a lot of fish on points. You know, you could probably do everything from troll a small crankbait to fish boat docks. You know, these bigger boat docks with shade, you know, they're kind of in staging areas, whether it's midway back on a creek or in a point, you know, situated around deep water, you know, somewhere where those fish can move from shallow to deep real quick around those boat docks would be great. Brush piles next to flats have been really good right now. You know, I'm going to say those 5 to 10 foot brush piles are going to be where you're going to catch those numbers of fish. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of those bigger crappie right now. Use a small jig, use a, you know, bobber and a minnow. You're going to go out there and have a blast, catch some fish. Everything's biting right now. We even caught a walleye, a couple catfish yesterday. So, you know, it's really fun. Great time of year. My favorite time to be out here. So come down to Lake of the Ozarks, go fishing, have a blast, and hope you guys catch a few. So until next week, good luck to you guys, and hope you guys have a great weekend. Catch a bunch of fish. We'll see you next time.